listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
It is the GM Shuffle. Marc Malusis in for Dave Ross. Geoff Schwartz, of course, another edition. And training camp's well underway. We've got our first game underway, done already in the books, and that was the Hall of Fame game last Thursday night as the Los Angeles Chargers took on the Lions, and the Chargers had their way with Detroit, who was turning the football over left and right. Not many starters, if any at all, in that game. Got a full slate of preseason action coming up later this week. Geoff, how are you doing, bud?
Football's back, baby. The over hit, and the Chargers did it by themselves. A little sloppiness. No, 5 turnovers from the Lions. I'll tell you what, man. Look, these preseason games don't have a lot of starters, as we know, right? But I look for how well a team plays, and the Lions were horrific. 5 turnovers. I'm telling you, Dan Campbell's going to be in them all practice this week. I like him to play much better against the Falcons in their second preseason game on Saturday.
And this is the GM Shuffle presented to you by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. So you've got that game that took place last Thursday night, full slate of games that are going your way now as we're inching closer and closer to the start of the NFL regular season. And there's always drama, Geoff, in the National Football League, unquestionably. And let's begin our journey in the drama out in Oxnard, California, as MICAH Parsons posted a trade request on social media after the strange comments by Jerry Jones about a week and a half prior, talking about injuries, talking about the fact that he signed Dak Prescott. He ends up getting hurt that season, referenced the fact that, MICAH missed 6 games a year ago. Negotiations have broken down between the two sides. MICAH's in the final year of his initial rookie deal. He's clearly an elite pass rusher, one of the real game changers in the National Football League. And he took to social media last Friday to basically demand a trade. Fascinating, interesting when you look at the developments in Dallas, a team that has a new head coach in Brian Schottenheimer. Obviously, they're not the class of their own division. That is the defending Super Bowl champs, the Philadelphia Eagles. A lot of people talking up the Washington Commanders. What do you make about all the drama and the contract negotiations with MICAH, Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, and the Cowboys?
Dallas does not have to negotiate this way, and they do it anyways. They don't have to do it this way. They could do negotiations like the best teams in the NFL do, right? The Eagles, the Chiefs, is you have a superstar like MICAH Parsons, and you pay him on time. It's that simple. They don't have to be this way. They don't have to have the drama. They don't have to have their best player demanding a trade and asking to leave your organization. They don't have to operate this way. But they continue for whatever reason. Maybe Jerry Jones wants a spotlight. Maybe there is something they really don't want to do and pay Parsons for. I don't know what it is. When he's on the field, Dallas's defense is number 1 in EPA. He's off the field, about 1,000 snaps in his career. They're 31st in the NFL. He's a game wrecker. He's a game changer. He's a guy that you have drafted and developed and put on the field. And those type of guys that become superstars, you want to pay them to be the backbone of your team, right? You want those guys to want to be in the building, but also to be leaders, to signal to the rest of your team, if you play hard and you perform, we will pay you also, right? Like those are signals that are given to the rest of the team. And I'm not saying anyone doesn't play hard, but knowing that your team rewards you for your good play makes you more excited to come in the building every day. And they're purposely messing with the chemistry of the team by having these negotiations drag on and on. And it also is scummy business the way this has gone down. So according to Parsons, and I think the Cowboys have sort of backed this up, Parsons went in to talk to Jerry Jones about leadership. And leadership with Parsons is something that people have questioned because of his podcast, essentially, right? Where he makes comments on his podcast that come off as, being a team leader and saying things about the team where he might not actually be an actual leader like he says or like he implies in his comments. And he went to Jerry Jones, talked to him about leadership. And Jerry Jones moved the discussion, talking about his contract. And Parsons said, oh, okay, yeah, we talked about this, but let's bring my agent in. And now they won't talk to his agent because Jerry Jones believes he had a deal done with Parsons in this impromptu meeting. And the scummy part about this is that they thought Parsons was dumb enough to agree to a contract without his agent present, without the involvement of the guy whose job it is to make sure the player gets the most money. So on top of these public negotiations where it's a back and forth and CeeDee Lamb, who's not even involved in it, is tweeting about it, Parsons not even dressed and practicing. Jerry Jones is answering questions about it. On top of that, you thought he was stupid enough to not go through the proper channels to get his best contract. So all this to me was so avoidable, but in the end, it's the reason why the Cowboys don't win. It's Jerry Jones. Now, Jerry Jones is not doing day-to-day things. He's not in charge of the entire roster anymore. That's his son. That's the player personnel director. But over top is this owner who thrives with this drama, and teams that have drama do not win anything in the National Football League.
Well, Jones came out and told the fans, don't lose sleep over this. My question is, Geoff, do you think fans should lose sleep over this? Like, where does the rubber meet the road? When does this come to some sort of resolution? Because the Cowboys are looking to get themselves back into the playoffs in 25. If they're going to do that, they need number 11 on the field.
Yeah. This is the thing about it. When you tweet about this or talk about this anywhere, Cowboys fans say, well, this is what Jerry always does. Well, that doesn't make it the right way to do business. I look, so the trade part of this, right? I think most teams, most general managers, if they have a first-round pick this year and next year, would gladly trade it away for Micah Parsons. You have a known commodity now in Micah Parsons, where you have unknown commodities in the next two drafts, right? Like I think any GM who thinks they're Parsons away or wants to add a player like him would gladly trade away 2 first-round picks and then obviously pay Micah Parsons afterwards. The question is, how many of those teams can actually present the Cowboys with an offer they would even consider? Well, the Commanders might, but they're not trading him to the Commanders, right? Howie Roseman's aggressive. Well, they're not trading him to the Eagles. So how many teams are left that realistically can give up 2 first-round picks and pay Micah Parsons? Not many. So even the options, if a trade was explorable, aren't even there. There's not many choices. So they're going to figure it out. But I go back to the point I made to start. Why the drama? Like,
well,
why? Go ahead.
No, I was saying it's a self-inflicted wound. This is nonsense the Cowboys don't need, and it's of their own doing. And so, like, if you look at Jerry Jones, this is, as you articulated, really this is why the Cowboys don't win, right? They create a headache, they create nonsense, they create drama that the organization does not need. And here's the thing: like, if you're not going to pay Micah Parsons, then who are you going to pay? In a salary cap world, Geoff, in a salary cap world, like, you get into trouble by paying great money to good players. You don't get yourself into trouble by paying great money to great players. And you ran through it. Micah Parsons is one of the great game changers in the National Football League, and that is unquestioned.
He is. And the thing about paying your players on time is it saves you money. Like, part of the reason the Cowboys are in a spot they're in is like they pay their players or premium players too much money because you wait to the very end to do it. When you pay a player early, the reason you get a quote discount on it, obviously, is that the earlier you pay someone, the next contract's more expensive. Duh, like we know the way it works. But more often than not, a player will accept a little bit less to just have the guaranteed money. You know, if you told Micah Parsons, I'm going to use flat numbers here, like, here's a deal for $100 million, and he's made not $100 million yet. He's like, he probably, sure, yeah, sign me up for that one. Or, you know, he can obviously wait and make 115 if this whole process plays out the way it has. Most players will choose the 100 now. Give me the 100 now. I will take it after my 3rd season in the National Football League. Because guess what? That makes me a free agent even sooner next time I want to get paid, right? Now I'm a free agent in year 7, not year 8 or 9 or 10. So players will take less money all the time. Guaranteed money now in my pocket. Give it to me. I'll take it. I haven't been paid this much money yet over waiting it out. So you have that benefit of that when you're negotiating with your players to get things done early. Yeah, it might be the most a player has made in that position, but also might be cheap relative to what they make on the open market and maybe a little bit less than what you could, pay them in 6 months. So that's part of the reason why paying these guys early just makes a lot of sense for team building. They're locked in. You have their salaries on the books. You build around them. The Cowboys just refuse to do this. They could have gone Parsons for probably $4 or $5 million cheaper per year if they'd done this a year ago.
What about down in Washington? The Commanders having a contract situation of their own with Terry McLaurin here. And he's doing a sit-in. He wants to get paid. Yeah. He's obviously great connectivity with Jaden Daniels last year. Was an unbelievable big play threat. Kingsbury and that offense. The Commanders are looking to build upon the success from a year ago. Adam Peters is talking about the fact that, this is business, obviously, nothing all that be concerned about. McLaurin's wanted a new deal. Negotiations haven't gone the way that he wanted. What do you make of Scary Terry in Washington right now, Geoff?
This feels like a situation where both sides get to about week one and decide, I'll give in a little bit, and we'll make it work, right? Because it makes a lot of sense for them to keep McLaurin from a team-building perspective, having a guy for Jaden Daniels. And Jaden Daniels right now is cheap, right? So you might as well pay the guys around him to uplift him in the best way possible. So there's no contention, right? It doesn't feel like either side is mad about it. Dan Quinn has spoken about it. He feels very positive about it. He's obviously there doing the sit-in, and his ankle is hurt. I bet you as soon as he gets his contract, it won't be hurt anymore. And so I think they work it out. I think this feels very much like we'll meet sort of halfway, right? We'll give up something on this side, we'll give up something on this side, and we'll find a way to make this partnership work.
But why does it have to get to the point where we're at now, Geoff? Why does it have to reach this point if you're the Washington Commanders?
Yeah, because NFL teams have more leverage than players. They just do. They have more money. First of all, they can withstand any sort of holdout situation. We get fined for holding out now. The teams are like, whatever, man. Like, okay, we'll take more of your money. That's why the sit-in is now a thing. And again, teams sort of have a line where they want to pay a guy. The player wants to get paid this. The negotiation goes back and forth, but we don't have any leverage. The leverage we have is sitting out. It's all we have. So that's why players choose this position. It's not a strong position often because a team knows you're not going to sit out 4 weeks of the regular season, not get paid. The only thing you can do is make a stink of it and make it, again, this is from the McLaurin side more than the Commander side. The other side is from the Cowboys side more than it is Parsons, who wants to get a deal done, and the Cowboys just don't want to do it.
On this edition of the GM Shuffle, we're going to get into some over and unders a little bit later on in the program. But coming up next, is there concern in Los Angeles around their quarterback, Matthew Stafford, and maybe a little bit of concern up in Buffalo around their talented tailback, James Cook? We'll get into those storylines. We will do that next. He's Geoff Schwartz. I'm Marc Malusis. This is the GM Shuffle, presented to you by DraftKings.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
Welcome back to the GM Shuffle. Marc Malusis in for Dave Ross this week. Geoff Schwartz, of course, presented to you by DraftKings. So drama abound in Washington and obviously surrounding the superstar MICAH Parsons and the Dallas Cowboys, Geoff. And some concern right now in Los Angeles with their quarterback in Matthew Stafford, who came back, signed the short-term deal with the Rams, got paid a boatload of money, had interest from the Giants as being one team potentially leaving during the course of the offseason. He decided to go back to L.A. He's won a Super Bowl with the Los Angeles Rams, and now he's dealing with, and he's meeting for a second time with a spine expert. So you're concerned. Stafford's been remarkably tough over the course of his career with the Lions or with the Rams, has played hurt, different between being hurt and being injured, especially in the National Football League. What do you make of Stafford and everything that he's going through right now, concern level in Los Angeles, a team that has high expectations coming into 2025?
Yeah, this is not good. When you are seeing back specialists and Robert Watkins is the number one guy in Los Angeles before the season, no bueno. There's just no way around it. He's not really practicing. He's doing static throwing. It does seem like this is going to linger a little bit unless it gets fixed now. I think there's still a chance that they're determining the path forward. And the path forward could be, okay, we can manage it throughout the season, the pain, or we just get it fixed and move on. And I think that could be an option here. And I'm high on the Rams. I think you are as well. They're a very talented team. They're very good on defense. Stafford continues to be one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. The offensive line has been improved. We'll see if some health at the left tackle spot. But for me, this is concerning because it doesn't go away either. Like you could be, it's fine. You get hit weird. And then all of a sudden the back pain comes back too. So I'm concerned about this when I hear specialist. I don't feel great about where that leads. It doesn't it doesn't often lead to nothing happening, if that makes sense. Like, how often do we see athletes, I'm going with specialists, and then they're like, oh, you're fine. Nothing's wrong. Continue on. That worries me.
Yeah, and they're not a team that's built as well to deal with a significant injury with the quarterback position, because everything obviously revolves around Stafford, his brilliance, his connectivity. When you're looking at Puka Nacua, brought in Devontae Adams during the course of the offseason. Jimmy Garoppolo continues to take first-team reps, and amazingly enough, Jimmy Garoppolo and Devontae Adams back together again after that brief stint in Vegas with the Raiders. The other scenario up in Buffalo, and that is James Cook, their talented receiver, at 16 touchdowns a year ago. Their talented running back, I should say, 16 touchdowns a year ago. Missed practice Sunday, scat out practice, I should say, Sunday due to business. Was asked if he'd be at practice on Monday. He gave the one-word response, business. He's looking for a contract extension. He made those intentions perfectly clear at the end of the NFL regular season, and basically said, at the end of the NFL postseason, that he wanted to get paid $15 million a year. Contract negotiations have not broken down. Both sides are still talking. Brandon Beane, their general manager, has said he wants to, sign Cook to an extension. He's not the straw that stirs the drink up in Buffalo. We all know that's the reigning MVP and Josh Allen, Geoff. But for a Bills team with expectations, Bills fans walking around thinking that this is their year. This is not what you want to deal with. Do they cooler heads prevail? You mentioned previous segment, the owners have the leverage as compared to the players. How does this situation play out with James Cook?
He'll play. They'll work something out, I would imagine. I saw someone give his stats for practice today. James Cook not seen participating in practice again. They put his injury. Like a lot of times when people, they say Geoff Schwartz, ankle, not practicing. They said standing on business, which he is. He's standing on his business here. Brandon Beane, by the way, said he wasn't fully aware James Cook would abruptly stop practicing, called it disappointing. This is one of those where it feels pretty easy to get to a middle ground here. You could either give him the $15 million, but guarantee a year and a half. So basically a 2-year deal for $30 million. You can make it, less and give him a second year fully guaranteed. So he gets to year 3, essentially. It feels like this will work itself out in the end, but I will say, look, the Bills offense changed for the better when I started running the football a little bit more, right? Incorporating that part into their game plan. They have a really good offensive line that I don't think people are quite aware how good the offensive line there is in Buffalo. It's one of the top offensive lines in the National Football League. So they'd miss Cook if he didn't play, but obviously Josh Allen is the reason why they're good.
Yeah, and Ray Davis and Ty Johnson are the two backups in that running back room when it comes down to James Cook. But I would agree. I would think that there'd be a common ground. If you're the Buffalo Bills, this is the last thing you want to have to deal with is this headache. Down in Miami, Zach Seiler signs a 3-year, $64 million contract extension, $44 million guaranteed. He had 55 tackles, 10 sacks, a pick, a forced fumble a year ago. So you look at Miami. I'm not bullish on Miami in 2025. I don't know exactly what they are. I know Seiler's a good player. It's great to see good players get paid. That's what happened down in South Beach. What do you make of them giving the Dolphins, that is, giving Seiler a contract extension, Geoff?
Good for him. Good football player. Like, I go back to the point I made earlier. Like, I think you want to be a franchise that rewards players that have proven themselves from rookies to where you pay them, right? Like you want that to be what you do, because again, it signals to everyone that if you do your job and you are a guy who we can build around. Now he wasn't drafted by them, but he plays best football there. He was with the Baltimore quickly, and he ended up playing with the Dolphins for the last since 2019. If you become a player we rely on that we basically built up, which they did, then you can, we'll pay you and you'll be the guy. So I always like this philosophy. I think paying your own players over free agency is a way to go.
I would agree with that because you know exactly what you're getting. Broncos, Zach Allen, 4 years, $102 million, $69.5 million guaranteed. That Bronco defense, Geoff, is going to be really, really good. Bo Nix, obviously year 2 at the quarterback position. Sean Payton. Coaching matters, Geoff, in the National Football League. And Sean Payton showing that brilliance that already down in New Orleans has brought that brilliance now to Denver. The Broncos They're one of those teams that people are expecting to take a step forward with this season after making the playoffs a year ago. Allen back in the fold, or signed to an extension, I should say. He was going to be in the fold, given an extension. Really good player, and that is expected to be a really, really good, if not dominant, Broncos defense.
Yeah, it's a good football team, man. And Allen's ability to get pressure helps the rest of the defensive line get their sacks. Like he's one of those guys that even though he might not have the sack numbers, he's able to affect the quarterback in a way that lets everyone else eat. Obviously helps the entire defense. So good job again paying him. The Broncos, man, does feel like they are, a Bo Nix being a little bit better this season, a little more dynamic passing game from being a true contender in the AFC. Like, look at their defense is really good. Their offensive line, really good. Nix, running backs, wide receivers, it's all there. Can Nix just take that next step up this season?
Well, do you think he can? Because I do think I have confidence that Nix can take that step this year. And I do think there's limitations. Listen, he's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not that athletically gifted. He's not Josh Allen. He's not that caliber. But I think he's got the coach that understands what the quarterback can and cannot do and is going to put himself in a position to go out there and be successful. What's your take on Bo Nix if he could take that next step at the quarterback spot?
I think he could take the next step in the quarterback spot as far as, the just efficiency part, right? And making sure to take the shots when they're there. But to your point, I just don't know if he's ever going to be like a top 10 quarterback, right? And again, that's sort of the cap on, can you win a Super Bowl, right? Can you make a deep playoff run? So I just never think he's going to get there. I don't think he's as good. His arm talent, the way he throws the ball, his sometimes lack of taking those shots down the field, right? So I don't think he'll ever be good enough to be one of those guys. But in a given year, can he be the 7th best quarterback in a deep playoff run? Absolutely. But for his career, whenever you rank quarterbacks, I think you're very rarely going to have Bo Nix in the top 10.
One last note, Geoff, and you could speak to this, and I was curious to pick your brain on this. The National Football League Players Association, they announced David White as the interim executive director, former SAG-AFTRA executive director. From a player position, from a player perspective, how important is this announcement?
Well, it seems like he's not great for the job. I don't. According to some of the reports, it doesn't seem like they keep choosing the best options for this job. The PA leadership just needs to overhaul how we do things and who's in charge of us. I'm pretty sure there's some not great things about David White that are out there. And I just don't know if that's the direction that the players want to go here. There are, I think, other choices that are more inspiring moving forward. And I hope that we get a chance to get those guys in. I'm trying to find the information here. I just, what I would like for us to do is I really do think a former player needs to be in charge of the PA. And we've had that over the years, most notably Gene Upshaw, and that was the greatest growth we've had as an NFL PA. And I know a lot of players don't want that job, but Dominique Foxworth, I believe, was in the running for it. Like, there are some players that do. I think it's important, man, to have someone that just understands the NFL player perspective on all these things. And so I'm curious if we ever get back to that. This is the interim role, by the way. So right. They could get back to that, but there's this FBI investigation. It just seems like there's a lot of issues right now. And I'm curious to see who becomes the permanent guy eventually.
But do you think because of that experience, because in terms of being a former player, because you've been through that, you have an understanding of where the players are, where the players situate, so therefore that would be what would be the best interest of this current group of players?
I think so. I think it's important to just understand how we negotiate, how can we get the best out of our players having been a former player.
Fair enough. Well, you know what we're going to get into, Geoff, next? We're going to talk teams. Who do we like? Who are we backing? Who are we fading in the upcoming 2025 NFL season? He's Geoff Schwartz. I'm Marc Malusis, in for Dave Ross this week. This is the GM Shuffle, presented to you by DraftKings.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
Welcome back to the GM Shuffle. Marc Malusis and Geoff Schwartz with you, presented to you by DraftKings. Geoff, let's get into you and I both Mike and the Mad Dog fans, right? I worked for Mike and Chris. When you were playing for the Giants, listener of WFAN, right? A lot of people, they used to do over-unders before the start of the football season. So why don't we do a little over-unders to start? And we're sitting here early August. Obviously, injuries can become a factor. We talked about the MICAH situation, McLaurin situation in Washington, obviously the Stafford back issue with the Los Angeles Rams. But let's start with overs, and then we'll get into some unders, right? The final two segments of this edition of the GM Shuffle. Geoff, you start. Where do you like over? Where do you like in terms of teams that are going to go over their win total in 25?
Do you want to go back and forth, or you just want me to list them all?
No, we'll go back and forth. You pick your top one, and then I'll.
Yeah. So I think my top one has to be the Niners, and it's not, but it's over. You can get over 10.5 at plus 110, over 9.5. It's some juice number. It's kind of, I think over 10.5 would be fine to play as well. A couple of reasons. One is their schedule. Their schedule is really easy, and they're going to be a favorite in 16 to 17 games. And you got to figure, if everyone comes back healthy, which is most likely to happen, that's the way the NFL works, it's a pretty talented football team. They don't have a lot of depth. If they lose a couple guys again, they're in trouble. But look at McCaffrey and Ayuk and Jennings and Kittle and Trent Williams and Brock Purdy, and defensively with Warner and the pass rushers they got. And like, it's a good vote. And when everyone's been healthy, they've won a ton of games. Their schedule is Seahawks, Saints, Cardinals, Jags, Rams, Falcons, Texans. And we'll get to the Rams in a few minutes, but those games might turn from, I don't know, probably a loss to a win, like week 5 at Los Angeles. There's no football. If Stafford's back is not healed by then, that's a win for the Niners. So that to me feels even more like an over win total for the Niners for me.
I like that. Easy schedule, great coach, quarterback in Purdy that got paid. I like that with San Francisco over. I'm going to go obvious. I'm going to go Bills over. The 11.5. I think it's just, it's too easy. And maybe sometimes in the National Football League, when things look a little bit too easy, Geoff, it ends up being too easy. But even with the Cook situation going on up there in Buffalo, I mean, this is the time. I like their offense. I love what they've done defensively as well. I think it's a really talented roster. Obviously, we know how good Allen is. McDermott has shown himself to be a winning coach. You look at the division, the AFC East. We'll see what the Patriots are. I'm not really all that high on the Miami Dolphins, and the Jets win total sitting there at like 5.5. So Aaron Glenn's looking at a cultural shift down in Florham Park. So I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills. If it's not now, when? They're going to win the AFC East, and they are the dominant team, and they can potentially get themselves to a Super Bowl. Give me the Bills over 11.5. That's pick number 1. What's number 2 for you?
All right, number 2 for me will be the Panthers over. It's either 6.5 or 7.5. Again, you can sort of play with these numbers, right? Over 6.5, you get minus 130. Over 7.5 at plus 140. Kind of depends on where you sit. I'm fine with laying the minus 130 here on the 6.5 for the Panthers. They ended last year on a high note. I think we look at the overall record, it might not indicate exactly how last year went. So remember, they benched Bryce Young. He comes back. They lose to Denver. They beat the Saints. They beat the Giants. They go in their bye week. They have Chiefs, Tampa Bay, and then they have the Eagles the next 3 games. They lose the Chiefs by 3. I believe that was a last-second field goal for Kansas City. They lose to Tampa Bay in overtime by 3 in a game they should have won. They fumbled going in to take the lead. They lost the Eagles at Philadelphia on a dropped pass that would have given them a touchdown near the end of the game. They then beat the Arizona and Atlanta. They won 4 of their last 9 games. I like the roster build this year. They continue to build the roster, I think, in an efficient and effective way. They went very heavy on defense and defensive line, which was a huge problem for them last season. And they get Derek Brown back as well. I'm high on the coaching staff. I think it's a good staff put together. I'm high on Bryce Young. I like McMillan. I think the receivers have improved. They have an offensive line that improved last season with some more additions. I think it's a good team, Mark, and their schedule's not that bad. So I like the Panthers here over 6.5.
I like that. I know, Geoff, you've been talking up Carolina, and you think they're going to take a step forward this year. So I like that. I'm going to take Houston, over the 9.5 victories for the Houston Texans. And it's a little bit of a belief in Houston. It's also a little bit of a lack of belief in the rest of the division when you're looking at the AFC South. So Stroud's got some injury concerns, no doubt. Regression year number 2. Offensive line, do I have concerns there? No question. The Joe Mixon health, for sure. I love their defense, or the ability to go out there and get after the quarterback. I love the positivity that we've seen as a head coach, and what we've seen in the growth of D'Amico Ryans as a head coach. I also don't necessarily believe I got to see it to believe it with Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. Don't know what Liam Cohen is as a head coach, right? You look at the quarterback situation in Indianapolis, it's Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones. Then you go to Tennessee, and I like Cam Ward. I think he's going to be a good player. I don't know what Cam Ward's going to be in his initial rookie season with the Tennessee Titans. So I'm going to take the Texans. Sometimes it's better the devil you know than the devil you don't. I'm going to take the Texans over their win total in 2025. That's my second pick.
The thing I'm fascinated about this year is offensively, if they give Stroud a little more freedom. The problem with last year's offense was injuries at wide receiver obviously hurt them. The offensive line wasn't great, but part of that was that they didn't allow Stroud the freedom to make changes and the freedom to figure things out sort of on his own. The offense is one of those sort of like set it and forget it. This is what we call make it happen. And I think that's not a fundamentally proper way to run an offense with a high-level quarterback. Yeah, if you want to run that offense with Tyler Shuck, be my guest this year. That's fine. But a guy like Stroud that can, I think, handle a little more offense, a little more creativity and flexibility at the line of scrimmage, you have to give him that. And I think this year they're going to give him that option now to do things the way he wants to do it up front. Now, again, when you watch Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar, all these high-level guys, you see third down especially, right? They 1A, they don't snap the ball. They look around, and then you see him walk up to the center, and the offense line, hey, we're going here. We're changing things. We're doing this. Hey, wide receiver, we're doing that. That's not really a Shanahan offense thing, which is what CJ Stroud plays. It's actually a knock that we've had over the years of the Niners and in big games. Like, hey, man, let Purdy change things up. They figure out what you're doing up front. And so I think allowing Stroud that option will make this offense even better this season.
I like that. I agree with you. And I also think, you mentioned Nico Collins, the injuries that he had last year, the connection and the connectivity between Stroud and Nico Collins is off the charts. Is there a third team that you're going over the win total in 25, Geoff?
Okay. So I like the Vikings to go over 8.5 wins.
All right.
And I'm going to, it's a little bit of a, here's the tough part about this team, right? This is a wager that's solely on JJ McCarthy being good. Now, I didn't say above average. I didn't say top 5. I just said good. Good is 15th, right? Good is average in the NFL. Their team around him is really, really good. Okay. Coordinator, check. Running back, check. Offensive line, they added 3 new pieces inside. They're going to be good. Check. Right. Darisaw's back healthy. O'Neal. Tight end, check. Wide receiver, Addison, check. Jefferson, Naylor, like maybe the trio of the best in the NFL. Defensively, you rush the passer. We saw what Flores did last year. Like, it's a really good team, Mark. But is McCarthy going to be that guy? And so this wager is banking on McCarthy being just good this year. If he's above average, they might be a 13-win team. If he's good, they'll get over the 8.5.
I like that, with Minnesota given the talent of their roster. And I think McCarthy is going to be good in 2025. I'll give you one more just from the uncertainty in the division. I'm going to give you Philadelphia over their win total, sitting now at, 11.5, I believe, when you're looking at the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going to go over that as well. NFC East. Giants, I think, will be visually better, but they're the worst team in the division. You look at now, the Dallas Cowboys can't get out of their own way. A lot of self-inflicted wounds, now dealing with the Parsons situation. I get concerns, Geoff, about that Washington defense. I don't have concerns about Jane Daniels regressing. They got to get through this McLaurin contract scenario down there because they need number 17 on the field for, his productivity, especially being the big play threat in that Washington Commander offense. However, I get concerned about that Commander defense. And then you look at Philadelphia, and I don't think there's going to be a Super Bowl hangover. I really do. Do I think necessarily they're going to be as – yeah, I think this is going to be a group led by, what Barkley's able to do offensively, Jalen Hurts. You look at the offensive line, some of the names have changed. They might have the best offensive line coach in the NFL. Defensively, they can still get after it. They've got depth. They've drafted well. I'm going to take the Philadelphia Eagles over their win total in what is an interesting NFC East, but I think they've drawn a line between them and everybody else. So I'm going to go over Philadelphia 11.5.
Look, when you win by beating people up in the trenches, you're in every game. You're in every game, like bare minimum. You're in every game, and you look at Jalen Hurts and his mindset. He didn't even put on the ring. He said, "Now I think quietly, like at his house, he put the ring on, right? He put the ring on. Like, come on. He never put the ring on. He just left it in the box. Like, he just left it out in your bedroom in the box. But nonetheless, the mindset is that, right? Like, we're on to next season. That's just the way they're wired, I think, in Philly. And that's really impressive to think that way and to act that way. And it makes me believe, I think, to your point, Super Bowl hangover is not going to happen for Philly.
Yeah, and I liked one other team. I liked the Rams over. I can't do it now, with the uncertainty of Stafford. Really quickly, is there another team that you really like, Geoff, in terms of over their win total in 25?
No, not that I feel like convicted about at the moment. I mean, there's teams I'm eyeing as far as like maybe the in-season. The Cowboys are fascinating to me. I think the Cowboys over 7.5 is certainly playable, but I just don't like the noise right now with what's happening with Parsons. So that's the other one that I might still do. You get over 7.5 minus 160 or over 8.5 plus 120. I think over 7.5 is certainly playable.
If you like what you're hearing on the GM Shuffle, there's even more at VSiN Pro. Betting splits, power ratings, and sharp analysis, all for just $9.99 your first month. Go to vsin.com/subscribe and check out all the subscription options. Straight ahead, we went through some overs. Now we're going to go on to unders. Teams were fading in 2025. He's Geoff Schwartz. I'm Marc Malusis. This is the GM Shuffle, presented to you by DraftKings.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
Welcome back to the GM Shuffle as we are in early August, Geoff, and training camps are running rampant, storylines abound, full week of NFL preseason football ahead upon us, and we're looking ahead to the start of the 25 NFL regular season, and we went through some teams that we liked and over-unders. Let's look at some teams that were fading a little bit, that you're a little concerned that you'd go under with, and Geoff, you lead the way here. We'll ping-pong back and forth. What's your first team that you think go under their win total in 25?
The Giants under the 5.5, and it's not. This is an odd way to put this, but this is the way I look at the Giants this season. I actually think the team is better this season. Better at quarterback, Blake Neighbors year 2, good running backs, offensive line, Andrew Thomas back, Evan Neal's move. Like, the team should be better defensively. We know what they are. They added Abdul Carter, like a legitimate defense. They were good last season. They'll be better this year. The problem is their schedule. And I know that people will point to last year 1-8 in one-score games. Are they going to even have 9 one-score games this season? Commanders, Cowboys, Chiefs, Chargers, Saints. Now here's this stretch. Eagles, Broncos, Eagles, Niners, Bears, Packers, Lions.
Impossible.
It just feels like a really tough stretch for them. No matter how much better they are as a roster, they're just not close to any of these teams. And if it starts going south quickly, I could see a quarterback change to Jackson Dart, a coach being fired, it just feels like it can go pretty quickly down. And that worries me about the Giants. So to me, the Giants under their win total. It's one I played first this season. I took Giants to be the worst record in the league at plus 600 to have the fewest wins in the NFL. I think it spiral pretty quickly down.
Yeah, I could see that. And even with the improvement, the difficulty of the roster, I'm going to go Cleveland. Under 5.5. I mean, you look at that quarterback room. It is an unmitigated disaster. It took a lot of money, but Myles Garrett's a happy camper. He's not all that concerned about winning now because he got paid, which I don't blame him for, Geoff. I really don't. Like, he's smiling ear to ear, and he's an unbelievable player. And I think there's some things to like about them defensively, but you look at that division, with the Ravens, the Bengals, and obviously Rodgers, and everyone seems to be happy so far in camp with Rodgers, Tomlin, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I just don't see, when I'm looking at that roster and I'm looking at their schedule, to where they get past 5.5 victories or get past 5 victories during the NFL season. I think they're going to have another top 10 draft choice. I think they're going to be drafting probably within the top 5. I'm going to go Cleveland under 5.5. What's pick number 2 for you?
Pick number 2 for me is the Dolphins. The Dolphins, I just, they're depth chart wise, not great. No tight ends. Their entire secondary is gone from last season. They have Tyreek Hill and Waddle and A-Chain, but Tua, it's not been figured out is the wrong word to say, Mark, but I think teams know that take that first read away. What are you getting from the Dolphins? And Tua's one concussion away from missing a lot of football. That's a very unfortunate part about the sport is injury, right? It's 100% injury rate for every player. And some guys just get a little more injured than other guys. I also just, I don't like the vibe I get from Mike McDaniels when I listen to him talk too. Maybe that you shouldn't bet on vibes, bro, but I just don't like it. I don't like what I hear from him. So I will take under 7.5 here for the Dolphins.
I like that. It was one of mine as well. So I'm not going to kind of belabor the point of everything you just mentioned, Geoff. I'm with you on Miami, the under, for everything that you mentioned. And I think if you gave McDaniel a little bit of truth serum, I don't think he'd be all that bullish on his team in 25. I'll give you another one. I'm going to give you Chicago. Now, everybody and their mother looks at Ben Johnson and a new regime and Caleb Williams, and he hasn't looked particularly great during the course of training camp, but we'll see exactly what he looks like during the course of the regular season, right? So I'm not going to judge it there. I'm going to go on the idea, Geoff, that it takes a little bit of time here. That, as the old cliche go, Rome wasn't built in a day. And then I look at the division, and I look at the Lions, and I look at the Vikings, who we discussed, and you like this year to go over their number. Then we haven't even talked about the Green Bay Packers, and Jordan Love and their roster and what they could potentially go out there and do. Finally, they drafted a wide receiver in the first round, right? So you look at it all, and I like what the Bears did in the offseason, rebuilding that offensive line. And, I do think Caleb Williams is going to show himself to be a really good quarterback in the NFL. I think it might take him a little bit of time. I'm going to go, and I don't know what Ben Johnson is as a head coach. I do know what he is as an offensive coordinator. I'm going to go under Chicago this year and their win total in what is a very, very brutal division in the NFC North.
So I'll tell you what to take away from training camp or preseason games. So we're going to have some preseason games before we talk next. And so here's my right. The way to take this is my takeaway. Okay. Does it look like it should? Okay. Does it look like it should? It's that simple. So, look at the Hall of Fame game. All right. I know I joked at the top of the Lions being sloppy, and they were. It didn't look like it should, but again, those guys aren't playing. So I'm not really worried about that as far as the future. Omari Hampton got 2 carries, I believe. He looked pretty good. He looked better than the backups he was playing against. That's what it should look like, right? The starters should look good against backups. Your first round picks should look good against backups. The players you expect to be playmakers should play well in the preseason. It doesn't look like, so the end result of the scoreboard is unimportant to me. It's, do they look like they should? So look at the Caleb Williams. When I see videos of him now, of course, the viral stuff that happens that you see are all the bad plays. It doesn't look like it should for the number 1 pick in the draft. It doesn't, Mark. It doesn't look like it should.
Yep.
Now, it doesn't mean that he can't play or won't be good, but it does. When I am listening to someone talk about Bears training camp, I want to hear Caleb Williams looks like a first round pick. Excuse me, first pick overall. We're not hearing that from him. And now, again, new offense. Like there are reasons why guys can struggle early with a new offense. I should say, he's not a rookie, but it does worry me a little bit that we're not hearing enough about how he's kicking ass in practice.
That's fair. Listen, I get it, and you're not wrong. You're 100% right. Now, the negativity plays more than the positivity,
of
right?
Course
so, so people are going to look at it, and you mentioned it as well. That's the stuff that's going to go out there and be viral. Looks completely and utterly lost, or as a bad practice, or a bad throw, or a bad pick, whatever it might be. That's fair. That's a good assessment, and that's a fair way to look at some of these preseason games, because as not a former player, Geoff, you watch these games and you say to yourself, what exactly should you be looking for when you're watching these preseason games? Because the results are the results, right? No one's looking at it now all of a sudden, wow, I love the Chargers because of what they did against the Lions backups, in the Hall of Fame game. But I think it's a fair assessment of how we should properly look at some of this action that we're going to see over the next, 2-3 weeks.
Yes. And so that's the way I look at these games. The last team that I have, and this is, I haven't done this yet, but I'm on the precipice of doing it. Okay. So I'm going to tell you that their away games they play on the road this year. No, I'll tell you the team. You ready? On the road, this team plays the Packers, the Ravens, the Bengals, the Chiefs, the Commanders, the Eagles, the Rams, the Vikings, and the Bears. Packers, Ravens, Bengals, Chiefs, Commanders, Eagles, Rams, Vikings, Bears. That feels like a tough road slate, doesn't it?
It does. It's very difficult. Who's that?
I feel like you would take that team under their win total. That is the Detroit Lions this season.
That is a difficult one. That is.
Yeah. So they play out of their division. They play.
It's a difficult schedule.
They play one team essentially. The Bucs at home. Otherwise, they play the Ravens, the Bengals, the Chiefs, the Commanders, and Eagles. So they get both of the toughest NFC East teams on the road. The Rams as well. That's late in the season. The Vikings and Bears. Like it's a very hard schedule with two new coordinators, and so I'm leaning under 10.5. It feels scary to do that. But
yes,
I haven't made that. The ones I've mentioned to you, I've made those wagers already. This one I'm eyeing this one. I haven't done it. I haven't pulled the trigger yet.
Yeah, I like that one. And also the issues and replacing some guys along that offensive line as well. But they were utterly dominant. They do get healthier and get a number of guys back defensively as well, led by Aiden Hutchinson. I'll throw one more out there for you, Geoff, and that be the New Orleans Saints. I'm going to take the under. I think the Saints might be celebrating the drafting of Arch Manning with the first overall draft choice next spring in the NFL draft. When you have reports that Spencer Rattler is looking better than Tyler Shuck, and he's trending toward being the starting quarterback down there in New Orleans, new head coach in Kellen Moore. There's not, you still got holdovers like Olave, who's had concussion issues, and you look at Alvin Kamara, but I have real concerns about New Orleans. If you like the over, the benefit of it, whether Carolina, Atlanta can't get out of their own way, and then you got Tampa. So it's not an unbelievably strong division. I just think the Saints aren't particularly good, and I think they could end up having potentially, they could be right there with the Giants. I mean, the Saints could end up having the number one overall draft choice. They could have that kind of a season. I'm going to go under the 5.5.
There was a video of Tyler Shuck in the 7-on-7 period that he scrambled, okay? No one was open. And this is one thing that frustrates me when everyone charts quarterbacks now. He didn't throw an interception in training. He didn't throw an interception in training camp. Okay, he also didn't throw the ball when he's supposed to in a 7-on-7 drill. Like, throw the ball. You might throw an interception. Oh, well, learn from it. Don't scramble in a 7-on-7 drill. There's no pass rush. What are we doing? Like if he had thrown the ball and threw an interception, I would judge him less than him scrambling in a 7-on-7 drill. For those who don't, 7-on-7 is everyone playing, right? Except the offensive line and defense line. So you have quarterback, running back, and you have obviously your receiving receiving option. So it could be 5 wide receivers as well against the 7 guys on defense that are in coverage. Like just throw the ball somewhere.
Yeah, don't scramble. Geoff, of all the over-unders, your strongest play is who?
Giants under, and I like the Niners over.
Niners over. I'd go Bills over, and I'd take the Saints under. Those would be my. Geoff, I had a blast last couple of weeks filling in for Dave Ross. I appreciate it, brother. Yeah, you got it, man. Thanks for listening to the GM Shuffle. Dave will be back with Geoff next week. This has been the GM Shuffle presented to you by DraftKings.